In today's video, I'm going to be continuing my journey through the Fighters Guild questline featured in the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. Last time, I stopped by the Balmora Guild Hall and enlisted in the faction. From there, I carried out several contracts for the guild, provided to me by Adis Fireeye and Lord Bummel Gro Aglak. It mostly dealt with helping out those in need and slaying the wicked. However, as time went on, the contracts became more and more personal. It seemed like the Thieves Guild was being heavily targeted, and the criminal organization of the Kimona Tong was being aided. With each contract completed, and each of my favorite skills increasing, I was able to rise through the ranks within the guild. Now, the journey continues with carrying out more orders. Speaking again with Lord Bummel and Vivek, I asked him if there was any more work to be done. He responded by saying that there's a bounty out on the head for someone named Adria Vendacia. Inquiring about who the woman is, Lord Bummel tells me that she can be found within the Census and Excise office of Saturan. He warns me that there might be a patrol of guards around, so I should take caution. If I successfully complete this contract, I'll receive up to 500 gold. Arriving in the town of Saturan, I first tried the main building entrance for the Census and Excise office, the one where Celis Gravius gives you the coded package, as well as where you pick your character's class and birth sign. However, I didn't see Adriara anywhere. So, exiting back outside, I decided to try with the warehouse right across from it. It was secured by a level 45 lock, but casting an unlocking charm did the trick. Unsure of where I was supposed to go, I ascended up some stairs, turned a corner, and at the end of a hallway, I saw a woman standing on her own. Approaching, it was Adriara Vendacia, and speaking with her, I tried to go through her dialogue prompts in order to get some sort of reaction out of her. However, there wasn't anything pertaining to the Fighters Guild, the Thieves Guild, the Kimona Tong, or anything sort of related to the subject matter. After trying the latest rumors, advice, and secrets, I decided to exit the conversation and just cast Frenzy. Ensuring that the guard walking around wouldn't enter the fight, I cast the spell and it was just a one-on-one. I poked her a few times with my spear, and she attempted to cast some spells on me, but it didn't really work out in her favor. After a short battle, Adriara fell dead, and I looted what I could out of the rest of the office. As I've previously said, it's interesting that you can find NPCs around the wilds and civilized parts of Morrowind, and at the time of meeting them, you have no clue what purpose they serve in the game. However, as time goes on and more quest lines are explored, their true reasoning for being placed where they are, and their actions, dialogue, etc., it all kind of comes to fruition. In my case, Adria Vendacia was one of the first NPCs I really had to do a head scratch at. I remember exploring around the Census and Excise office way early on in my playthrough, and I remember seeing her tucked away in the upstairs portion. I spoke with her for a bit, but I wasn't really sure what purpose she served. Now, it's clear that she was the subject of one of the Fighters Guild quests, and after all this time, it's really neat to see things unfold like that. Returning back to Lord Bummel, he asked me if I had taken care of the Imperial. He called it good work and paid me out 500 septums, then saying he had more orders for me. Inquiring about the work, he tells me that one of the Imperial magistrates has been causing trouble for the Fighters Guild. He tells me that the magistrate is Rufinus Elas. Lord Bummel directs me over to Ebonheart and says that there's a 1,000 septum bounty on Rufinus's head. I'm to go to the Grand Council chambers and slay him. This is definitely a very strange contract, and if anything, it is by far the strangest. This is the second order in a row that I've been given that pertains to killing somebody affiliated with the Empire. And the only background information I got on Rufinus was that he was just giving the Fighters Guild some trouble. Something is definitely awry here. Regardless, arriving in Ebonheart, I tried to speak with some of the NPCs around just to see if I could get more information on Elias. Unfortunately, nothing really came of it, so I made my way over to the Grand Council chamber. Entering inside and poking my head around a bit, I finally landed on the room that contained the man himself. Speaking with Rufinus, I was really hoping that he'd give me something to work with, and to be honest, there were a lot of different dialogue prompts pertaining to a lot of different topics. He's probably a very knowledgeable man. He probably could have helped me with a lot of different tasks, and provided me with a lot of different information. However, the unfortunate part is none of it was really relevant to the story at hand. So, using Morrowind's laws against its people, I cast Frenzy and he struck me first. In doing so, that caused us to fight a 1v1, and with a few prods from my spear, Rufinus Elias, the magistrate of the Empire, lay dead. Casting Recall, I returned to Lord Bummel and Vivek, and he asked me if I had gotten rid of the Imperial yet. Telling him yes, he called it good work, said that he hoped the guards didn't bother me too much, and then paid me out my sum of 1,000 septums. When asked for more work, Groaglak told me he had nothing left. He said to go speak with either the guild master, Seoring Hardheart, or with any of the other guild stewards in the other cities. With that officially marks the end of Lord Bummel Groaglak's quests for the Fighters Guild. Now that I've officially reached the rank of Protector, I can return back to Adis, FireEye, and Balmora. Before doing so, I worked on leveling up my minor favorite skills. I brought them both up to appropriate levels, and then when speaking again with FireEye, she promoted me to the rank of Defender. Asking her for more work, she tells me that someone named Alof the Easterner has seen some orc outlaws nearby his farm. Apparently, Duke Dren himself has contracted the Fighters Guild to investigate the orcs at the Daedric Ruin. Adis then gives me directions over to the farmhouse. She says that Alof can give me more information regarding the orcs and where they can be found. As per her instructions, I traveled northeast of Pelagiad and north of the Arvel plantation. I pretty much landed on the fields of Camus, and there was Alof's farmhouse. Speaking with the Nord, I asked him about the orcs at the Daedric Ruin. He tells me that they're currently residing in Ashunartis, a ruin northeast of the farm and west of the old Dunmer stronghold. He heard rumors that the orcs are led by a barbarian named Barub Grubamag. He bets that if she's killed, the rest of the orcs will leave the farmers alone. Lining up my bearings, I levitated high up, spotted some Daedric ruins to the northeast, and landed in them. There are a variety of Daedra posted outside, so I defeated them all, and then entered into the shrine area. Immediately, I was challenged by an orc wielding a two-handed claymore. He had a decent amount of health, but he didn't hit extremely hard. Heading a little further in, I spotted a shrine to Malakath. There were two more orcs stationed on either side of the shrine. Aggroing the one to the right, he was classed as an agent, so he didn't perform very well in combat. He had even less health than the warrior before him, and he hit for even less points. The last orc that I encountered was actually a healer. They tried to cast a variety of spells, but most of them ended up missing, so with a little bit of time, most of their health was whittled down. At this point though, I was a little bit confused. I'd yet to fight Burab Grabamog, and it seemed like the shrine just about ended here. Taking a peek at the local map though, it seemed like there was another entrance into the shrine elsewhere. I looked around for a good bit before realizing that it was in an elevated area. Casting Levitate, I floated my way up until I heard the sound of a female orc aggroing onto me. It was Bamog, and she came rushing up to the edge. Utilizing my Levitate, I had her drop down to the shrine area, and there I picked her apart with my spear. With all of the orcs defeated and the shrine scavenged, I cast Recall and made my way back over to Balmora. Speaking with FireEye, she asked if I had dealt with the orcs. I told her yes, and she responded by saying that Alof could confirm my story. Therefore, she paid me out my 500 septums for the Duke's contract. Asking for more work, FireEye tells me that a distinguished client has placed a contract on the Verethi gang. This client wants the leader, Dovris Verethi, killed, and apparently the gang can be found in Manamu, a cave just southeast of Pelagiad. Once the leader is dead, I'll be paid out 1,000 septums. This definitely seems like an easy enough task, and it feels like it's right up the guild's alley. Before embarking on the newest contract, I decided that I wanted to put my newest skill to use, Long Blade. I was originally looking for a Daedric Daikatana, or a two-handed claymore of some sorts, when all of a sudden I came across a weapon I had completely forgotten about. A while ago I had stashed away Hope's Fire, the one-handed long blade wielded by Almalexia herself. The attack power on it was decent, and the enchantment itself was pretty powerful. With my long blade skill all the way up to 50, I thought it was a pretty good idea to start using it. And after the first connected hit with Hope's Fire, I figured that this was probably going to be my main weapon from now on. Traveling southeast of Pelagiad, I arrived at the doors of Manamu and entered inside. Immediately, I was faced with the gang member and other Red Guard, and took her out pretty easily. My lack of long blade mastery does show with this fight, as it does take a few swings to hit her, but there isn't too much trouble here either. In total, there were 6 lackeys that needed to be killed in order to make it all the way to Dovris. Once all of them were defeated, Verethi himself was found in a larger chamber, nestled under a canopy atop a platform. The UESP places him at level 13, so he really shouldn't be much of an issue for mid to high level players. Once the gang is defeated, the cave can be looted, and among the treasures are gold, skill books, potions, and leveled items. Once all was said and done, I returned back to FireEye, and she asked me what my progress was with the Verethi gang. I filled her in on the details, and she paid me out my 1,000 septums, calling it good work. I asked Adis for more orders, and she told me that there's a dangerous creature on the loose in the Serrano tomb. Inquiring further about it, she tells me that a hunger has actually desecrated the tomb. She wants me to go over to it, which is southeast of Fort Moonmoth, in between Lake Amaya and the Ashlands, and she wants me to kill the hunger. It seems easy enough, and again, a proper Fighter's Guild job. It took me a little bit to properly follow the directions and find the tomb. It turns out that it's not far from Alof the Easterner's farmhouse, just off of the fields of Camus. Once ready, I began my purge. Immediately down the first pathway, I came across a Bone Lord. Defeating it, I began to check and clear each room, finding and fighting off more undead. As it turns out though, the hunger that I was sent here to kill can be found pretty much right off the bat. It's just beyond a level 10 locked door, and by the state of the area you can definitely tell that it got its hands dirty. It wasn't hostile, so I got to make the first move. According to the UESP, this hunger is actually significantly weaker than most hunger you'd find in the wild. What's more is that in its inventory is the Serrano Ebony Helm. If you're proficient in heavy armor, it's likely to have some pretty good use to you. Otherwise, it can be sold for a value of 15,000 septims. Before leaving, I looted the rest of the area and wanted to find whatever treasures were left behind. There was some minor loot worth a pretty penny, but I'd argue that the Ebony Helm was probably the big score from the dungeon. Once wrapped up, I recalled back to FireEye, and she asked me for any updates on killing the hunger. She remarks that the Serrano family is likely grateful for the work, and she pays me out my 1,000 septims. When asked for more orders, she said that that's it for her, and that I should try out the other guild stewards within Morrowind. I decided to pay a visit to Aldrune in order to speak with Perseus Mercius, the former guildmaster turned guild steward. Perseus is actually quite the unique NPC. Caius himself even knows and trusts him. What's more, speaking with Mercius, he actually acts as a voice of reason. He'll give you advice on certain contracts, and he'll even tell you his opinion on the validity of each one. For example, on all of my past contracts, he has something to say about them. For Adria Vendacia, he comments that there was no reason to kill her. In terms of the codebook, he says he's glad that I didn't have to resort to violence. For Lyriel Stoin's debt money, he comments the obvious in that Rannis was the one with the debt. However, he calls it as it is and says that Rannis was actually murdered. He thinks it's best that if I pay the 2,000 septims off myself, although that's already said and done. For Durgarbol, he doesn't offer much more information other than she's already dead. As for Tongue Toad, he said it's best that I just do what I feel is right. Finally, when asked about the Fighters Guild, he comments that things have gone sour since he stepped down from Guildmaster. He does pay respects to Soaring Hardheart's fighting abilities, but he also comments that he's heard rumors of him making deals with some shady characters. Perseus refuses to discuss more of the matter, but at this point, I feel as though it's pretty obvious he's referring to the Kimona Tong. This would make sense as to why guild members are being sent to secure debt money for the criminal syndicate. It also makes sense as to why we're specifically targeting the Thieves Guild for a lot of our contracts, because the Thieves Guild is at odds with the Kimona Tong. It also makes sense as to why I was sent to kill Adria and Rufinus of the Empire. They were likely causing a lot of trouble for the criminal syndicate's operations, and with them out of the way, the Kimona Tong could work much more efficiently. In any case, it's time to get to work with Perseus. Asking for orders, he tells me that sometimes the Fighters Guild contracts get a little strange. Apparently, there's a young buoyant armiger named Uline Hennem, and she hired the Fighters Guild as backup to clear out some necromancers. The armigers are supposed to act as the civilized world's defense against those within the Ghost Gate. So although Perseus implies it's strange that she needs some help in order to take out necromancers, he does mention that she's young, inexperienced, and ambitious. Mercius says that Hennem will meet me outside the ruins of Voss. Voss is apparently located in the Sheogorad region. He marks it on my map and tells me that my best bet is to take a boat to Dagon Fell. Before leaving the guild hall, I paid a quick visit to Traylin, one of the resident NPCs. He offered me some more long blade training, and he was able to get me all the way up to level 59. Following Mercius's instructions, I took a boat to Dagon Fell, and from there located Voss way to the far west on my map. Levitating and leaping my way there, I eventually landed at the ruin and spotted the buoyant armiger. Speaking with Uline, she asked if I was here on behalf of the Fighters Guild, and wondered if I was ready to wander inside and fight the necromancers. I told her yes, and she said that she'd fight by my side. Together, we stormed into Voss and began our assault, fighting mostly undead creatures like skeletons and bone lords. I made sure to stay at the front of the pack so that way I could take most of the aggro, as well as I could deal most of the damage with Hope's Fire. As for Hennem herself, she's not too shabby of a fighter, and she's able to summon her ancestral ghost to aid us. After a little bit of fighting, the two of us ended up in a big chamber. This chamber contained 3 different NPCs. 2 of them looked like mages of some sort, while the other just looked like a commoner. The mages were friendly enough, but the commoner seemed hostile towards me. I wasn't sure if I should be killing the sorceresses or not, but I sort of clued in after speaking with them that they probably weren't my target. I did end up killing Debentian Silbaniti, the bard Breton chasing me down, but he too had nothing to do with the quest. Backtracking a little bit, I came across a door leading into the Voss Tower, a whole new zone. Going through it, I encountered more undead, and this time a couple of Dremora. It was a regular Dremora and a Dremora Lord. The Lord gave me a little bit of issues, but a few shots with Hope's Fire and both of them were defeated. Ascending up some more levels, Hennem and I fought our way through a few more enemies before landing on our person of interest. Darius Adrim, the necromancer in question, was present at the top of the tower. After he spotted us, we rushed in and began our assault. It didn't take long for him to die though, and after his defeat, Uline stopped me mid-fight and thanked me for my services. She appreciated the help and said that the battle would have been hard without me here. She told me that she'd stay behind for a bit, but I could go on ahead and return back to the Fighters Guild. Recalling and making my way back to Aldrune, I spoke with Perseus and he asked for updates on the situation at Voss. He had said that Uline Hennem had actually given me a very positive report. This whole interaction has actually helped our representation with the Buoyant Armigers, and because of my outstanding performance, Perseus decided to share the reward money with me and paid me out 500 septums. According to the UESP, if Hennem's disposition is below 70, she'll give you a less than glowing rating, and that would have resulted in Perseus handing me less money for the reward. Asking the guild steward for more orders, he starts off by saying that often the Fighters Guild has to uphold justice when nobody else can. He received a contract straight from Cyrodiil, and it's regarding finding the murderer and outlaw Nerer Beneran. Beneran was apparently a member of House Redoran, and now he's the leader of an outlaw band in Sargon. Sargon is apparently north of Margon. Mercius wants me to find Nerer, and as he politely puts it, bring him to justice. Making it all the way to Margon, I began asking its citizens for information regarding Sargon. A lot of them asked why I'd want to go there and said that it's purely my business. Charming them and trying again, they reiterated that they're not sure why I'd actually want to head inside of the cave. However, they did tell me that Bugdarash Gregeshel or Nulena Tatus would be the best people to ask for information regarding it. Heading inside of the outpost, I located Nuleno and asked her about Sargon. She commented that it's north of here. However, I'll have to find a way across the sea. It's on an island, and that island comes with a long swim and a long walk. She calls it even further due west of Voss, and thinks the best way to get there is from Dagon Fell. Taking a peek at the map, I noticed that it almost looked closer traveling to the Urshilaku camp than it did to the Sheogorad region. So I made it all the way to the Ashlander tribe, rested in one of their beds, continued northwards towards the island, and began looking around for my place of interest. This little place of Morrowind was jam-packed with ruins, caves, and tombs. So believe it or not, I actually had a little bit of difficulty locating Sargon. Eventually though, I found the cave and began my Fighters Guild duties. Similar to the Varethi gang in Manamusa, Beneran had a small band of outlaws with him. And as you could probably guess with quest progression, they were slightly more challenging than those of the gang. Including Nerer himself, Sargon contained a total of 8 different enemy NPCs. They were all dark elves and their classes ranged from witch hunter to warrior to knight, barbarian, etc. They had varying skill levels too, with the lowest being 15 and the highest being 19, as Nerer himself. Successfully defeating Beneran, on his body he has an enchanted blade, as well as an ebony cuirass, which again could go well with the Serrano ebony helm, or could be sold for a whopping value of 35,000 gold. Once all was said and done in the cave, including looting its treasures, I returned back to Perseus and he asked if I had taken care of Nerer. I told him yes, and he called it good work. He's happy that Beneran had been brought to justice, and he gave me my share of the bounty, which was 500 gold. Asking Perseus for an advancement, he promoted me to the rank of warder. I then asked him for further orders. He responded by saying that Sergio Avon Oren of Saran has given the Fighters Guild a contract. Apparently, he's been having problems with some bandits in the city. Mercius wants me to go over to Saran and speak with Oren, as he'll be able to inform me of what's going on. Inquiring about Avon, Perseus calls him a good leader. He says that most leaders tend to neglect their people and their duties. However, Oren takes his role very seriously. He cares very much for Serran's people and the well-being of the town. Hopping on a silt strider and traveling over there, I began to ask around for where I could find Oren. One of the guards told me that he lived in the manor to the west of the temple. Entering inside of the household, I ascended to the upper level and located the leader. Oren greets me and asked if I had come on behalf of the Fighters Guild. I tell him that I'm here to take out the bandits in Serran, and he tells me that they could be found in Saturan, a cave to the northeast of town. If I managed to kill their leader, Serrano, the bandit raids on Serran would end. Once my task has been completed, he tells me to report back to him, as he'll be the one to give me my reward. Lining up my bearings, I cast Levitate and start to float northeast of the city. After scoping out the surrounding area for a bit, I landed at a cave that turned out to be my place of interest. Entering inside, it was go time as I was immediately charged at. You can definitely tell the difference between that of Perseus's quests and those of Lord Bummel's and Fire Eyes. Perseus is all about protecting and serving the people of Morrowind, exactly what the guild stood for when he was guildmaster. However, since times have changed and the guild has fallen on dark times, the new quests surround aiding the biggest spender and have rather questionable morals surrounding them. Interestingly, within Saturan, there was actually a cage containing quite a few slaves. Killing Yolgir, the overseer, I was able to take his keys and free every single one of them. The hostile NPCs within Saturan are actually easier than those found in Sargon. However, they do have greater numbers, so there's a bit of a trade-off. Once everybody was defeated, including Dalder, I returned back to Avon and told him about the demise of the bandits. He said that I had served justice to Ceres, along with his companions, and that House Halalu thanks me. As a reward, he pays me out 1,000 septums. Casting Recall, I returned back to Perseus and asked him for more orders. For this next one, he calls it a small task. Apparently, the Empire charges the Fighters Guild with keeping the forts and mines supplied. So he asks if I'd be willing to take a load of flin to the Elith Pal mine. Asking further about the mine, he hands me the shipment and tells me to deliver it to someone named Dangor. Dangor is a Bosmer and he works within the mines. The mines are apparently at the base of Red Mountain, and he points them out as being west of the Zeneb camp. Traveling over to the Ashlander tribe and making my way towards the center of the island, I began my search for the mines. Fortunately, it really didn't take too long to find them, and I entered inside. To be honest, I half expected there to be some sort of trap or twist involved with this one. Delivering 20 bottles of flin just felt too easy for the Fighters Guild. However, upon going inside, I noticed that it was filled with Imperial Legionnaires and a bunch of miners. Officially letting my guard down, I wandered all the way to the end of the working tunnel and found Dangor. Speaking with him, he asked if I was here to deliver the flin. I told him yes and handed over the bottles. Dangor simply responded by saying thank you and that he was looking forward to this shipment. Beyond that, there really isn't much more to this one. There are veins of raw ebony that you can try and steal, however, if you're caught, it probably won't work out in your favor. To be honest, at first I was taken aback by the ease of this mission, but then after letting it digest and process, I actually have a pretty big appreciation for this one. I feel like it goes very hand in hand with serving the citizens of Morrowind. It also does a pretty good job of carrying out the lore for the Fighters Guild being a government-sanctioned faction. I find it works well with throwing a curveball at the player, making you believe that something's gonna happen when in reality, it's a fairly simple fetch quest. And because of that, I actually respect it a lot. Returning back to Perseus, he asked if I had delivered the flin to Elith Pal mine. Telling him yes, he called it good work and said that a load of flin can get pretty heavy after a few steps. He himself prefers brandy. Following this, he offers me some for my efforts. I tell him yes, and as a reward, he hands me a Cyrodiilic brandy as well as 500 gold. When ready, he tells me to check back for more orders. The Fighters Guild questline is certainly ramping up. Perseus believes the guild should be led in one way, whilst Lord Bummel, Gro Aglak, Adis Fireeye, and Searing Hardheart believe it should be led another. I've yet to go to the Wolverine Hall and meet the guild steward there, and something tells me that there are some really big and important contracts coming up that are going to determine the guild's future.